Did you know? The Heavy's father was a counter-revolutionary in the USSR. Upon his death, the Heavy and his family were deported to a North Siberian gulag. Roughly 27 years before the events of Team Fortress 2, the prison is burned to the ground 3 months into the Heavy's stay. Considering he looks to be somewhere in his 40s by now, this implies that an adolescent Heavy took out the entire camp security via torture and freed everyone inside. One of the Heavy's possible secondary weapons is the Dalokos bar. Dalokos spelled backwards is Shokolad, which is Russian for chocolate. The Heavy's gun, Sasha, is the only thing the Heavy appears to care about other than family. In fact, he loves it so much he sleeps beside it. Unlike most of the class-specific TF2 updates, the Soldiers update came alongside the Demomans in an update entitled War. The update started with a contest awarding whoever killed more of the opposing class a special new weapon. The War comic accompanying the update explained the Demoman and Soldier's friendship prior to the event, and sometimes when dominating one another, both classes will voice lines referencing their former friendship.
Dominated! But you're still me best mate. Dominated! I'm still your friend.
A weapon available to both the Soldier and Demoman is the half Zatoichi, which has multiple references in its name. Zatoichi is a blind swordsman created for a series of films occurring in late Edo Japan, relating to the Soldier's vision being permanently obscured by his hat. Also, the Demoman only has one eye, hence the half in the name. While likely unintentional, the late Edo period is around the 1830s to 1840s, and Team Fortress 2's story begins in 1850. The weapon also has an attribute called Honor Bound, which prevents it from being sheathed until it kills. This is likely a reference to the infamous Muramasa, a Japanese swordsmith whose swords could not be sheathed until they drew blood. The Demoman, aka Tavish Finnegan de Groot, is bizarrely obsessed with jobs. According to his mother, his father held down 26 jobs at once. She holds this against him as he only has a measly 3 jobs. In the Abominomicon comic, the Demoman searches a graveyard for ghosts hoping they'll give him jobs. He ends up finding one given by a wizard who warns him not to read the Abominomicon. Being a child, he reads it anyway. And as far as we know, this is actually the story of how he lost his eye. The Demoman's weapons feature several blatant references to him being Scottish. One of his melee weapons, Nessie's 9-iron, is a golf club named after the Scottish Loch Ness Monster. Scotland also happens to be where modern golf was invented. One of his alternate grenade launchers is called the Lock and Load, and one of his sticky launchers is called the Scottish Resistance. This refers to the Scottish revolt against English rule in the late 1200s. The Eyelander, Demoman's default sword, is a reference to the movie Highlander. And lastly, the Scottish handshake is a slang term that references a stereotype of the Scottish people. It implies that they're aggressive even under agreeable circumstances. The Scout has as much Boston in him as the Demoman has Scottish. One piece of concept art suggests he could have featured a more blatant visual interest in baseball, complete with a baseball t-shirt and matching red cleats. One of his cosmetic items are red socks, which is a reference to the baseball team of the same name. Once the Scout's update was released, he received a new weapon unlock called the Sandman. The Sandman is a bat and ball combo which, if aimed correctly, can be used to temporarily stun opposing players. The name and its stifling abilities references the Sandman, a mythical character who puts people to sleep by sprinkling sand in their eyes. The Scout's scattergun had unused sound effects for a double-barrel shot. The sound was ultimately repurposed for the Force of Nature weapon instead. One likely joke on the Force of Nature promotional poster is that it was made in Portugal but has good warranty written on it in Spanish, making it look fraudulent. The Engineer is one of the few characters in Team Fortress 2 with a full name, Del Conager. Conager happens to be a reference to the old Western novel Conager by Louis L'Amour. This explains the Engineer's relaxed cowboy-like demeanor in his Meet the Engineer trailer. The Loose Cannon comic explains that the Engineer's grandfather was integral to TF2's backstory and seemingly senseless conflict. Decades prior, he created a machine that would keep feuding brothers Blutarch and Redman Man alive forever, more or less. In the present, Blutarch Man commissioned the Engineer to figure out his grandfather's blueprints and make a better machine. The melee weapon, Eureka Effect, is named after a sudden realization or solution to a problem. This is likely because the weapon allows the Engineer to teleport to certain locations almost instantly without the need of a teleporter. This effect is similar to that of the instant teleporter, a secondary weapon for the engineer which allowed them to instantly teleport to their teleporter exit. It was scrapped during development, however, as engineers were using the teleporter exits for their own needs, breaking the flow of gameplay. The sniper isn't actually Australian. As a baby, he was blasted out of a rocket intended for deep space, only to land in Australia. The rocket was fired by his parents, both of whom were from New Zealand. New Zealand which voluntarily sunk itself to the bottom of the ocean. One of the sniper's secondary weapons, the Jarate, is never officially referred to as a jar full of urine, although it's heavily implied and the other characters all know what it is. Jarate is actually a shortening of jar-based karate, a crude form of combat invented by CEO of Manco, Saxton Hale. In the Meet the Spy video, the red spy attacks the sniper, slashing his cheek before killing him. Upon the release of the Sniper vs. Spy update, the sniper's model was updated to have a scar on his cheek. The spy originates from France, but interestingly, his accent becomes British when the game is played in French. The spy embodies everything international and has a vast variety of stabbing weapons from different locations. His default knife is a butterfly knife or balisong. It's sometimes called a Batangas knife after its place of origin in Batangas, a province of the Philippines. The Conover's kunai represents Japan. Kunais were originally used as a kind of trowel, but were adopted by ninjas to gouge holes in walls, and sometimes people. The Big Earner is based on American mafia slang for someone who earns a lot of money. And the Wanga Prick references a wanga, a magical charm used in Haitian folk practice. Originally, Meet the Medic was going to explain how the medic invented the medigun. Thanks to an attack by the blue spy, the red medic noticed a strange reaction when a piece of medical equipment, some jars of health, and a massive pool of blood all fused together. This trailer was laid out more like the previous ones, with the medic talking at the camera and later narrating his story over the events in question. The final outtake video in this series shows off this alternate approach, and the description reads, "We'd made a fundamental error in judgment. Did we explain the birth of the medigun? Sort of. Did anyone want the medigun explained? Not necessarily. Playtesting made us realize that we'd invested a huge amount of screen time on the nuts and bolts of the birth of an inanimate object when we should have been focusing on our star. We scrapped the origin story of the medigun and went back to basics. When people think of the medic, what do they think of? What's the iconic image? The medic uber-charging a heavy." The Pyro was the final character to receive their official trailer. The community waited with great anticipation as they expected the Pyro's identity to finally be revealed. The Pyro has no name or place of origin and speaks in indistinct grunts and yells. In their official description, even the gender is called into question, stating, "He's a fearsome, inscrutable, on-fire Frankenstein of a man, if he even is a man." Though it is worth noting that the Pyro is voiced by a man. While the Pyro's update confirmed none of these things, it did confirm that they're delusional. Interestingly, Valve hit a segment of the Meet the Pyro video in a trailer for Portal 2 exactly 2 months before Meet the Pyro was published online. Before you go, we'd like you to vote on what you'd like to see covered in the future. A video on Half-Life or a video on BioShock. You can also vote by leaving a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more facts and trivia. And if you'd like to hear my voice a bit longer, you could check out my video on Mario Teaches Typing. And who knows, you might actually learn something new about typing. But, I mean, probably not.